Gloria Gaither, the soulful heart of gospel music, stood next to her husband Bill. She is now bidding farewell with a frail voice and honest tears, perhaps to all of us, not just to the stage. What transpired in the background to bring to this heartfelt farewell? And why are people everywhere anticipating the most devastating chapter to date? Gloria Gaither has long been more than just Bill Gaither's wife, a legend in gospel music. Some of the most impactful songs in the history of Christian music have been inspired by her. Her profound faith and timeless words have impacted people all over the world as the lyrical voice behind many of Gaither's lyrics and co-writer of innumerable Gaither masterpieces. However, at the age of 82, Gloria has sent her followers a touching statement that marks a sea change in her life. Gloria was obviously moved as she thanked fans for decades of love, prayers, and unwavering support in a recent video published by the Gaither Singing Company. "There comes a moment," she said, her voice quivering a little, "when you sense God calling you to a more subdued season, and you feel a soft pull on your heart." Gloria alluded to leaving public appearances and major events, but she did not state retirement directly. She intends to spend more time with her family instead, contrasting sharply with the decades of traveling, performing, and serving in the ministry by concentrating on writing, introspection, and quiet times. Gloria Gaither was just Gloria Sickle before the world knew her as a legendary lyricist and the matriarch of Southern gospel. She was born in Michigan on March 4, 1942, into a family with strong morals and a Christian faith. She grew up in a loving home, where she had a great respect for music, literature, and education. Gloria demonstrated a talent for words and expression at a young age. She was an intelligent student who loved poetry, writing, and the arts. Gloria sought a degree in English at Anderson University, a tiny Christian college in Indiana, after graduating from high school. She developed both her intellectual and spiritual faculties there, which would later permeate all of her compositions. Gloria met Bill Gaither, a youthful, vivacious music instructor, while she was a student at Anderson. Initially, they were merely co-workers. By founding the Bill Gaither Trio with his brother and sister, Bill had already started experimenting with gospel music. However, they quickly became closer due to their common love of creativity and religion. In 1962, the couple was married, and their union would permanently alter the Christian music scene. Bill first pursued music full-time, while Gloria continued to teach English at Alexandria High School. However, the trio's songs started to incorporate her talent for poetry and her profound literary understanding. Gloria, with her talent for words, brought Bill's songs to life with poignant, heartfelt lyrics that millions of people could relate to. Written amid a difficult period in their life, the now iconic hymn, "Because He Lives," marked her breakthrough during a period of national instability and while they were expecting their third child. Gloria and Bill Gaither were leading what many would have considered the ideal Christian life during the late 1960s. They were happily married, raising a little family, and dedicating their lives to music ministry. On the inside, however, they were going through one of the most difficult periods of their life, both emotionally and spiritually. The world was in disarray. It was the Vietnam War. The country was being rocked by the civil rights movement. Traditional Christian beliefs were being openly questioned, and protests were breaking out on college campuses. The Gaithers were also negotiating their own doubts at the same time. Bill was struggling with fatigue from constant touring and demands on his ministry. Additionally, Gloria was overcome with worry about the kind of world they were bringing their third kid into when she was pregnant. They relied on their religion during this emotional tempest, and a noteworthy event took place. Gloria experienced a surge of serenity and a revitalized faith in God's promises as she prayed and sought solace. The lyrics of "Because He Lives" started to take shape during that silent, very spiritual moment. The lyrics weren't written with ease. Struggle, dread, and a great yearning for hope gave rise to them, and that's why they resonated so strongly with millions of people. In 1971, the song was recorded, and swiftly rose to prominence as a worldwide hymn for struggling Christians. It wasn't just a hymn. Regardless of how uncertain the present may seem, it was a statement of faith in a God who controls the future. Gloria and the Gaithers were thrust into a new sphere of influence by the popularity of Because He Lives. She was suddenly more than simply a behind-the-scenes writer or the wife of a gospel singer. People were acknowledging her as a powerful religious voice, a poet whose words have the power to touch the soul and the heart. Nevertheless, stayed grounded despite the increased attention. She kept writing a lot of books, devotionals, and musings that provided insight on faith, family, and purpose. In addition to her music, she later co-wrote over 700 songs with Bill, many of which were adopted as church hymns worldwide. But Gloria's ability to blend profound religion and unadulterated humanity into her songs may have been what made her contribution so special. She wasn't an exalted writer. She wrote from the trenches of real life, from joy and sorrow, from motherhood and the ministry. Gloria's influence and presence persisted throughout the 1970s and 1980s as the Gaither singing band rose to fame and the Homecoming video series was created. Her voice was heard everywhere, even though she was rarely the one holding a microphone. In every song, every prayer, and every instance that moved a crowd, she also became a sought-after speaker at women's conferences at this time, and she mentored upcoming Christian performers. She had a unique presence in a male-dominated field because of her calm, introspective demeanor and depth of knowledge. Her talent lay not only in her writing, but also in her profound understanding of the human spirit, the hardships of daily existence, and the unwavering optimism of faith. Gloria continued to be the silent powerhouse behind the Gaither Trio's transformation into the Gaither Vocal Band and the success of the Homecoming series, composing, speaking, and ministering with unparalleled grace and insight. As she withdraws from the spotlight, her admirers reflect on her contributions to gospel music, as well as the remarkable journey that turned a teacher from a tiny town into a vocal pillar of faith. Gloria Gaither cemented her status as a silent revolution in the gospel music industry during the 1970s and 1980s. Gloria's voice served as the constant flow underlying their artistic and spiritual heritage, even if her husband Bill frequently took center stage. Although her impact was little, it was significant. Christian families in America and abroad grew to rely on the Gaither Vocal Band and later, the Gaither Homecoming series. Their music was a ministry as much as a performance, and Gloria's lyrics distinguished themselves in the genre with their depth and literary refinement. Gloria's songs were full of spiritual insight, poetic imagery, and emotional honesty in a sector that is frequently dominated by repetition and cliché. She had the ability to personalize teaching and transform the great secrets of God into lyrics that regular people experiencing joy, sorrow, uncertainty, and faith could sing. Her ability to infuse gospel music with a sense of narrative was among her most notable accomplishments. Gloria wrote more than just choruses. Whether it was the trip from death to resurrection, from despair to hope, or from darkness to light, she recounted stories about it. Her songs struck a deep chord because of their literary weight. She recognized the redemptive arc in both human life and the Bible, and she turned that insight into lyrics that still touch people's hearts today. Gloria became a voice for Christian women across generations. In addition to her singing career, she shattered silent boundaries at a time when few women had significant theological or artistic responsibilities in Christian music. She wasn't limited to being a pastor's wife singing backup, nor was she a performer in heels and glitter. Gloria was a mother, a thinker, a spiritual mentor, and an intellectual all at once. Numerous devotionals, spiritual journals, and contemplative articles were written by her, frequently examining the connections between family, identity, culture, and religion. For women navigating parenting, ministry, and life's silent burdens, her words served as lifelines. She talked openly about her difficulties. Although she didn't act as though she understood everything, she was able to direct others to the person who did. She also made a significant investment in the future generation as part of her legacy. Gloria had a strong commitment to discipleship and education, co-founding the Gaither Homecoming Bible and the Gaither Family Resources Center. Younger gospel musicians, especially women, looked up to her as a role model and mentor in addition to being a lyricist because of her platform and mentoring. Gloria consistently maintained her focus on substance in a culture that was becoming more and more preoccupied with image and celebrity. "We never set out to be stars, we set out to be faithful," she once said. It's all because of that dedication. Every song Gloria Gaither ever composed was the result of a life she lived to the fullest. She was never ostentatious. She didn't often look for attention. However, the gentle gravity of her soul was evident to anyone who was in her presence for even a few while. She didn't perform her faith. In the crucible of actual life, it was lived, practiced, tried and perfected. Gloria's most effective ministry came from the way she lived her life. Her friends characterize her as perceptive, considerate, and a good listener. She didn't make noise to break the silence. She brought calm into it. She was the one who probed deeper during discussions. She was the one who provided peace during a crisis. She was very faithful as a wife. In addition to being musical collaborators, she and Bill traversed more than 60 years of marriage as true soulmates. There were difficulties in their relationship. It was difficult to manage a large ministry, raise 3 kids on the road, and live up to public expectations. Gloria, however, remained a stabilizing influence throughout it all. She was a purposeful, nurturing mother. Despite her hectic work, her kids remember a mother who was always there. Late at night, after the children had gone to sleep, she composed songs. She taught her kids compassion, honesty, and responsibility, in addition to Jesus through lengthy conversations and walks. She was knowledgeable and faithful as a friend. In addition to artists, she served as a mentor to writers, pastors, and intellectuals, many of whom attribute their conception of the Christian vocation to her. She possessed a unique talent for lovingly pointing out the gifts in other people. Gloria Gaither was a woman of religion who served as a link between the past and the future. She respected the old hymns but didn't hesitate to pose challenging queries. She maintained biblical truth while allowing for nuance. She didn't fear subtlety in her religion. It could be carried because it was deep. Her life turned into an example of what it meant to live a good life, both in public and in private. She demonstrated that faithfulness, not celebrity, is the true test of success in ministry, that the life that inspires a song determines its level of impact, and that serving others is the ultimate definition of greatness. Gloria leaves more than just a collection of well-known hymns behind, even as she withdraws from the spotlight. She leaves behind a legacy of grace, wisdom, and fortitude. Her songs will still be sung in quiet hospital rooms, churches, and funerals, and happy family get-togethers for future generations. Perhaps more significantly, though, is that her example will continue to encourage both men and women to lead meaningful lives that are characterized by humility and unshakable faith. It feels appropriate to let her own lyrics reverberate in this final moment based on the words she provided us. Jesus is the name given to God's Son. He learned to forgive, love, and heal. He lived and passed away. Gloria Gaither is well known for her spiritual depth and exquisite lyrics, yet those closest to her are aware that her family has always been her main mission. There was always a house behind every performance, song, and book, and there was a lot of faith, music, lengthy talks, and laughing in that house. Suzanne, Amy, and Benjamin were the 3 children she and Bill Gaither reared. The ministry of their parents has influenced each of them, but Gloria's firm hand and caring heart have molded them in unique ways. The oldest, Suzanne Gaither Jennings, has been active in the Gaither Ministry and Company for a long time. Working behind the scenes with her parents, Suzanne co-wrote a number of songs with her mother, including well-known homecoming classics, and assisted in overseeing the Gaither family's assets. Suzanne is more than just a collaborator. She has embodied the Gaither vision for the next generation by fusing financial savvy with a profound reverence for their spiritual and musical heritage. The middle kid, Amy Gaither Hayes, followed her own creative path. Amy inherited her mother's passion for language and writing and went on to become a poet, actress, and educator. She has been candid in interviews about the intellectual depth of her childhood, describing how dinner discussions were frequently theological, artistic, and inquisitive. Ben is a songwriter and producer who co-founded Liveborn Media and has collaborated extensively with his parents on numerous homecoming projects, she reportedly stated. Although his music is more modern, it still has the same themes of faith, family, truth, and foundation. All 3 kids talk highly of their mother, not only as a parent, but also as an inspiration. They remember her ability to be patient during the demanding years of traveling, her late-night writing sessions after going to bed, and her propensity to transform ordinary events into spiritual teachings. Family trips were holy but not ostentatious. Their time together was safeguarded. Gloria never allowed her family to feel inferior, even when the duties of ministry became overwhelming. The Gaither family has reacted to Gloria's recent declaration that she wanted to slow down with a mixture of emotion and gratitude. She has always been seen by them as a strong, dependable presence that kept everything together amidst the turmoil of traveling. Her kids and grandkids are now supporting her as she gracefully withdraws from the limelight, fulfilling her desire for a more subdued season. They have stated unequivocally that her legacy only grows from this point on. The wisdom of Gloria Gaither will continue to reach people in new ways, whether it be through books, reissued music, or written works from the past. Bill Gaither recently expressed his support and affection for his wife's choice in an interview. Gloria has contributed a great deal. Through her words, she has dedicated more than 60 years to the church, our family, and the world. I believe it's time for her to take a peaceful nap, hug her grandchildren, take a stroll in the garden, and listen rather than talk all the time. She deserves that. Her presence has also been appreciated by their grandchildren, who are now teenagers and young adults. On social media, a few of them have mentioned how their favorite storyteller was Nana, the one with a parable in her heart and a journal in her lap all the time. They say she is full of grace, smart, and inquisitive. A tidal wave of emotion has been released by Gloria's message of stepping back, which was conveyed through a straightforward video and a few sincere remarks from admirers worldwide. Social media was ablaze with homages. Her farewell video received thousands of comments on YouTube, many of which were sympathetic. Her music helped me get through my cancer. Through the Gaither homecoming tapes, I came to know Christ, and Gloria's words always brought tears to my eyes. He lives at every birthday, so my mom played. Gloria's remarks still make her feel close even though she is no longer there. In recognition of her achievements, churches in the US and elsewhere have hosted special services. Hour-long tributes were broadcast on radio stations. A few admirers even made compilation movies in which they shared first-hand accounts of how her songs impacted their life. It's remarkable how intimate the reaction has been. Despite never aiming for fame, Gloria Gaither's genuineness made people feel as though they knew her. She reassured you that God was still in charge, and that faith didn't need to be ostentatious to be genuine. She was the woman who composed the words that reflected your heartbreak. Her hymns are now sung every day in nursing homes. They reverberate during chapel sessions in prisons. Her thoughts are preserved on faded CDs and framed sheet music in quiet living rooms. There is now a collective sigh of appreciation as people bid farewell to her public persona rather than her existence. She has stated that it is time to listen more than to speak and to relax more than to struggle, but she has not stated that this is the end. She keeps setting an example by doing this. Fans and relatives therefore cling to the presence she created in their life even as they let go of her onstage persona. A legacy etched in souls rather than in stone, and not in lights but in lyrics.